I quite like this term. He witch, man witch. Man witch sounds like a bit like a sandwich. A man witch sandwich. Ooh, that's either really tasty or really sexy, depending on your point of view. It's the spookiest time of the year. Well, kind of, but I'm aware of Halloween itself, so this is the closest we're getting. But many people be dressing up and celebrating all things dark and scary. Something you'll see a lot around this time of year are witches. Witches come in many shapes and forms, from crooked noses and green skin to superhero outfits and school uniforms. Something most of these witches will have in common, however, is the fact that they will be female. The term of witch and the general concept of one is something heavily linked with women and those who identify as such, from their mythological origins to the persecution of women in witch trials across history to the modern depictions of them in popular culture. While the term is deeply linked with women, men can be witches too and have been depicted as such, yet many people have taken umbrage with the idea of men being witches, not so much in regards to men having the same abilities and skills as witches, but more with that name. Many believe that witch ought to be a female exclusive term, and that a male witch should go by a different name altogether. If that's the case, then what exactly should we be calling a male witch then? First off, we need to understand what exactly a witch is in the truest sense of the term, and where better to look than the Oxford English Dictionary. The OED defines the term as a person, in later use typically a woman, who practices witchcraft or magic, especially of a malevolent or harmful nature, and this definition explains a lot to us. All a witch really is someone who practices witchcraft. And once again, the OED defines witchcraft as magic or other supernatural practices. So if you do anything vaguely magical, then you know what? You can be called a witch. The OED's definition of witch also told us that it mainly applied to women in later use. This means that to begin with, anyone can be called a witch, regardless of sex or gender. So one answer to what you can call a male witch is simply a witch. And this is even seen in the etymology of the word too. The term has its origins with the Old English wiki, which means a female magic user. But this term of wiki is simply the female form of the word wicca, which means a male user of magic. This shows us that witch has its ultimate origins with the term for male users of magic. By the time the word evolved into witch, it could be used for anyone, despite the fact it also references females in its etymology, I suppose. I don't know, I just wanted to mention the etymology of witch somewhere in this video, just plopped in here. The origin of witches is believed to be tied up in Christianity. They were initially seen as people who did not follow the teachings of Jesus and God, instead still following the pagan religions of the past which had very different practices. These practices were seen as devil's work by Christians of the past, and from here the modern concept of witches evolved, including women and men. During the witch trials that plagued history for centuries and were quite frankly really freaking awful, seriously, witch trials were the worst. I know they're kind of more jovially portrayed in modern depictions, but no, the witch trials are freaking awful. Not a good look for us humanity, just saying. But anyway, during these witch trials, around 20% of those put on trial were actually men. Once again, according to the OED, while witch could be used for anyone in the past, it was around the 15th century it started being aimed more at women. This is when different terms started to sprout up for male witches, and some have been more successful than others. Before we continue looking into those male witch terms, I want to say a huge thank to my most recent patrons and super thanks leavers. So a huge thank to new patrons Anne Monique and Adam Wetstein, and a super thanks leaver Janello too. Patron is the best way to financially support Name Explained, and donating just $1 a month gets you ad-free videos, a chance to say what names are explained, an exclusive monthly newsletter, and your name at the end of these videos. All of that can be found at patreon.com/nameexplained, which will be linked down below. Conversely, if you want to just make a one-time donation, you can leave a super thanks directly in the comment section of any of my videos here on YouTube. They help out tremendously too. Thank you. Anyway, where are we? Oh yeah, we're looking into male terms for witches. Some of the earliest to come about were the simple terms of he-witch and man-witch. These cropped up in around the 17th century, and despite how to the point they are, they don't really seem to have stuck around all that much. These days, very few witches are referred to as man-witches or he-witches, but maybe we should bring it back. I quite like this term. He-witch, man-witch. Man-witch sounds like a bit like a sandwich. A man-witch sandwich. Ooh, that's either really tasty or really sexy, depending on your point of view. That's weird. Maybe cut that out. The term a lot of sources seem to agree on as the true male term for a witch, however, is a warlock. Despite having the literal word of war in its name, it doesn't come from the same roots. Warlock comes from the Old English reloga, where originally meant a traitor or enemy. The former part of that name comes from a Germanic root and means faith, while war as we know today comes from Old French roots. I just really want to stress that, as warlocks have nothing to do with war, as you may presume. Like, a warlock sounds like a big sort of monster raging in war. I might think of the Morlocks from the Time Machine? I don't know, but yeah, warlocks, nothing to do with war, just male magic users. But as the term means things like traitor and enemy, and witches were seen as being traitors and enemies, it's easy to understand why it got linked to those who did witchcraft, especially for men. But what's interesting is that warlock unto itself is actually a pretty gender neutral term too. Maybe we should be calling everyone warlocks instead of calling everyone witches. The term seems to have been linked specifically with men during the witch trials in Scotland in the 16th and 17th century. By this point, for one reason or another, witch had become mainly linked with women, so men deemed of witchcraft needed a new name, and I guess warlock fit their needs. Beyond this, however, there have been many other terms applied to male users of magic as opposed to witch. Some of them are fairly gender neutral too. You know, words like sorcerer, mage and enchanter, just to name a few. And of course we have the term wizard. Throughout history, wizards have generally been seen as fairly different things to witches. While witches often use magic for supposedly evil reasons, wizards are more known for their intelligence and wiseness. In some mythological cases, wizards didn't actually have magical powers of any kind, they were just smart, wise people. Wizard, being the male version of witch, sprung into popularity in much more recent years, thanks to a certain book and film series. It's a mainstay now, but I'm not actually the biggest fan of it personally. I don't know, I just see witches and wizards as being two very different things, but that's just me. So a male witch can really just be called a witch, but if that doesn't suit you, instead why not go with he-witch or warlock or sorcerer or wizard if you really have to. But better yet, you could just ask them what their actual name is, they'd probably appreciate that. So where my witch is at? If you are Wiccan inclined, let me know about it down below and go tell me your preferred term for a male wizard. Also, please share the topic down below we could cover in next Monday's Name Explain video. It could be about literally anything and the topic can be as niche or broad as you like. I will then choose 3 of those topics and place them in a poll for my patrons to vote on. Then the winner from that poll will be the topic covered in next Monday's Name Explain video. You can vote in that poll as well as enjoy many other great benefits by visiting patreon.com/nameexplain, which will be linked down below, and by donating just $1 a month. Thank you. Anyway, that's more than enough for myself, but don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm NameExplainYT, and don't forget to join the Facebook page Friends of Name Explain, where you can chat with myself and many other name nerds. Okay all, take care, and happy Halloween whenever you're watching this. I don't know, you might be watching it like 4 years from now, you might be watching it in Christmas, I don't know, but yeah, go be spooky, bye! We're just gonna get a haircut in town, took like 2 hours, longer than I expected it to. Yeah, cool, let's do this one. Spooky, witches be crazy I guess. A person in later use, typically a woman, who practices witchcraft or magic, especially of a malevolent. It could be, pardon me, but this term of Wicca is wiki. So men deemed of witchcraft needed a new name, and I guess warlock fit their bit. Why did I mess up on literally the very last word? Oh, missed the button.